Welcome back. Panelists here. Joshua Johnson, host of 1A on NPR. Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan. NBC News correspondent Carol Lee. And White House correspondent for the PBS NewsHour, Yamiche Alcindor. Let me kick things off with another question that we asked in our new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll. How the president has handled the aftermath of the shootings in El Paso and Dayton. And I want to put some comparisons. Bill Clinton in Oklahoma City, George W. Bush and Katrina. Here they are. After Oklahoma City, this was the entire country, 84% approve. Democrats, Republicans, independents, that's not just among Democrats. It was 84% approved of his handling post-bombing, 7% disapprove. Here's Katrina. Everybody's memory of it is pretty negative. Believe it or not, that's 48-48. So not great, but not as bad as probably you remember. Look at this, though. After El Paso and Dayton, the president's handling here, 52%. You know, Yamiche, it's been the same number when we've measured it after Pittsburgh and after this. A majority of the country does not like the way he handles these moments, and it does call into sort of all of his leadership into question when these moments happen.
Well, one of the really through lines of the presidency of President Trump is that people wonder what impact has he had on really making these things happen, not how he will handle it. So the question is not, will President Trump say the right things? It's whether or not what you said impacted this person wanting to go into Walmart and specifically target Latino shoppers and kill them. So I think this president also, in a lot of people's minds, lacks moral credibility. That's even among supporters. When I talk to white evangelicals in the South, who say, we like him, he's good for the economy. But then I say, well, would you want your child to be like him? Right. Do you think he's a role model? They always sit back and look at me and say, I don't really want to answer that question. I think that's what those numbers show. It shows that even if you like President Trump, right, you realize that his brashness and his rhetoric is problematic.
You brought up the yeah, but, which is the economy. The yeah, but and the economy, Carol. We saw the yeah, but this week, and we saw, I think, we have an idea of what the president's going to do if the economy goes south, and I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. But this, Larry Kudlow did not seem as reassuring of that it was smooth sailing ahead.
No, he kept saying we need optimism. Everyone should be optimistic, and there's not going to be any recession, but didn't really have a lot of concrete answers for how that's going to be avoided. And we know that the president is worried about this. We know the president's advisors think that his reelection hinges on how the economy is performing, and it needs to be a strong economy for him to win reelection. His polls consistently show that his handling of the economy is approved of far more than whether his general approval or on any other issue. And you've also seen, whether it's Republicans or people who sort of the hold your nose and vote for Trump crowd, they've stuck with him through some of the rhetoric, some of the things he's done that they don't like, because they say, oh, you know, he does that, but look at the economy. And what happens to those folks? You know, do they stick with him? Do they turn on him? And it's real risky for him.
It is. I think in a merely political sense, if the economy turns down, the 2020 presidential election will become even more brutal, more ugly, more about other primal, rather.
No, I want to get to that after this, because I think that's exactly what we saw a little bit this week.
I noticed what Carol said. 3 times Larry Kudlow said, let's not be afraid of optimism. He kept slamming away at that. He wanted that to be your takeaway. That makes me nervous. That sounds like a thing we've decided we're putting out there. It sounds like prosperity is just around the corner. It sounds like one of those hollow things that they want out there in a headline. Boy, it's just looking a little unsteady, I think, economically. Perhaps people are having less confidence than they've had in the past 2 years.
And to the point of confidence, one thing that Mr. Kudlow did not mention, which was a big economic indicator that apparently everyone but the administration has been worried about, is something called the inverted yield curve.
Are you really? You're going to drop the yield curve on us? Look at you. Look at you. I'm still trying to figure out if Americans know the yield sign. But
well, yeah. You're driving around D.C. That's a very good question.
Yes.
The inverted yield curve basically says that, and I wrote this down, that the interest rates on short-term bonds are higher than interest rates on long-term bonds. Basically, it means that investors are worried about their near-term prosperity, and they just kind of want to put their money in a gopher hole where they know it's going to be safe when they come back to it years later. That is not always a sign that a recession is coming. Many recessions have been preceded by an inverted yield curve, so it's not a guarantee. But there are signs that volatility is up and down, and the inverted yield curve is moving, and that passive investing is getting more popular than active investing, that people are like, let me just put my money in an index fund because I know it's going to get a return back. I don't think, or I wonder whether the indicators that Mr. Kudlow mentioned are going to move the needle, especially for the voters who are more transactional with President Trump, who are able to do the yeah, but. I interviewed a guy in Michigan and asked him, how has President Trump been for your economic prosperity? He's got a manufacturing business, a roofing business that's booming like crazy. And he says, it's been great for my business. And then I asked him, would you do business with Donald Trump? And he said, I'd get half the money first.
Oh.
We talked about Peggy, sort of, I think, alluded to this, Yamiche. The morning after the 800-point drop, the president decides to weigh in on what Israel should do with the two congresswomen, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. We can decide whether it's a coincidence or not, but that is the timeline there, alluding to what Peggy said. If the economy goes south, we know where he's going to go. Culture war, culture war, culture war.
We know where he's going to go if the economy does well.
Well, that's a good point. He's going to go
culture war, culture war, culture war. And the reason why he does that is because the people that I talk to all over this country, if you can say that you support the president, despite the fact that women have said that he sexually assaulted them, despite the fact that he sent racist tweets, despite the fact that he has separated thousands of immigrant families from their children, if you can support the president and say the economy is the reason I'm doing all this, there's usually also some culture war stuff that's speaking to you. I was just in Dayton, Ohio, where people said, yeah, I love the way that the president's talking about the economy. But you know what? I've also been telling my neighbor, if you don't like this country, you should leave. And I've been saying that for years. And now here's the president telling me that that's okay. I think that underlying the people that say the economy is what's driving them to support this president, they also are in some ways excited by the rhetoric. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody is, but for a lot of people, there's a Venn diagram where they like both.
You sort of reinforce, I think what Peggy's saying is that it's going to get nastier when there isn't the rationale of the economy in front of it. You can put up a facade going, I don't know if I like that stuff, but if the facade's gone, then you have to say what you really believe.
Yeah.
I think part of the economic problem here is that people who make big economic decisions are feeling insecure. And part of the reason they're feeling insecure is that in the White House, the president has no sense that he should operate as an old, wise, steady hand. He's out there tweeting and expressing and tariffing and this and that, and it's all jangling what's already a jangly atmosphere,
Instability gets people to retreat. That is something why the consumer confidence that Larry Kudlow has might not last. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.